All right, I want to welcome everybody to the October 2024 meeting of the Parrot Club. Speaking with us tonight is Sheila Blanchette, a professional certified companion bird behavior trainer. Sheila owns and operates Heart of Feathers Education and Behavior Trainings and has since 2015. She offers in-home, local region, and online behavior and training assistance for companion birds. Sheila's worked with several of the animal bird rescues in the New England area in assisting with bird behavior. She's written several articles for the Pet Professional Guild Bark magazine. And in July of this year, Sheila accepted the position of Director of Education for Rhode Island Parrot Rescue. And she is assisting part-time to grow their public companion bird education programs. And Sheila is very much a club favorite of ours, and we're very happy to have her back again tonight to talk about recall training. So with no further ado, Sheila.
Hello, everybody, and thank you. And Amy, that was always a wonderful introduction. You always make me feel wonderful. This is a great, and I love this club. I love all the clubs. Amy just makes me laugh all the time when I run into her. So when she says, "Hey, you want to speak?" I just say, "Okay." So I'm going to share my screen and see if I can get the presentation up and put it in presentation mode. And so, Amy, I'm going to minimize the people so they're not on the screen. I'm going to have, can you monitor the chat? And if you see any hands up. For those who, let's see if I can say this right. For those who aren't ready to ask the question or don't want to ask the question during the thing, put in the chat, but here's the key. Put the slide number of the question on there so then I can go back to that slide when we talk about it. I tried to put slide numbers on here. I'll try to do what I can, but it just, sometimes when you're trying to recall something, if you put the slide number in, it helps when we talk about it. All right, so I'm going to minimize and I will get into this. Let's see if I can bring this way down here. And again, this is going to be introduction to recall training. This is only going to be within our household. This is not about outside. And I'm not going to introduce myself because Amy did a wonderful job. In this little session, I will talk about, what is recall training, why is it important, and where to start, incremental steps, and things to remember. I just wanted to put some kind of what we're doing. I'm hoping I will not go on for 2 hours. If I go too long, I want Amy to say, "Hey, wrap it up." Okay. So let's just get into, what is recall training and what am I introducing us to? Now, what I'm calling recall training is movement, such as flight, jumping, walking, a combination, moving from one location to another, not always in a straight line, and remember also sending the bird back to the original location when needed. That's what I'm calling recall training. And in this introduction, it's within your confines. This is not about outside, right? It's going to be about the ability of focusing movement through distractions as well when we're doing recall. So if the person's not visible, can you get the bird to come and make it around corners? And of course, using triggers to request cue words, hand signals. That's recall training to me. What we're not getting into and what it's not is outside free flight training. This is not this course. I believe that has to be taught by a certified free flight trainer. I do not do that. I'm only working on it within the household. Recall training is not when the bird just jumps on you, it comes to you. Right? We need to cue the bird. That's recall training. And again, if the companion flies or walks from the top of the cage to you when you call, that it's not really. Recall is what I call there and back. That's recall because we're sending it to different locations. So I just want to kind of specify what I'm getting into in this introduction. Now, recall training to me is really important because I believe it's stimulation for the bird because it provides enrichment because we're teaching the bird something. It really has to think about where it's going, how it's getting there, how it's cueing, and then how to go back. We have to set up, we have to put all the settings together. Everything's got to be together. And there's some strength training here too. If the bird has never flown, we might teach it a little flying. So not, again, a little bit, get those wings moving. If for some reason the bird cannot fly, well, we're going to get its little, leg muscles. It's going to, because there's some work to this. So that's why I like recall training. It really involves you and the bird really thinking and putting it all together and cooperating. But the first thing we have to, the first skill, right? So we're going to get right into this. The first skill with introduction to recall is stationing, having the bird station at a location and not jump the gun, right? Not jump ahead of everything, right? So when we're doing station, the companion bird can either come out safely, if out of the cage safely, or if where you're not there yet, this can be done in the cage as long as the bird is showing calm behavior. I always have a prerequisite for the human when doing any training, and anybody who's ever seen any of my training plans probably have seen this, and I think they chuckle, but it's always true. If you're doing any training, right, you need to be in the mood to train. If you're not in a happy-go-lucky mode, don't train. Just take the day off, or don't do it at that moment. And whatever the bird's favorite item is, make sure you've held it for a little while, because when you're doing training, you really want that focus. So whether it's food or play or scratches, whatever the bird, you want to use, just when that training's coming up, and I tell people, withholding doesn't mean days. It just means, oh, I'm going to train in about an hour. I'll talk to the bird, but I'm not going to go over and give it a whole bunch of scratches because I'm going to go use that in a little bit. Or millet. I may not have it in the cage as often because I'm going to do this little training. So that's what when we're talking about withholding, it's just trying to make that have value when we're ready to train. But again, I'm going to go back to be in the mood, be happy-go-lucky. All right. So again, stationing is we're going to pick a location. Every bird's different. So you're picking a location, top of the cage door, top of the cage, and a perch inside. And you're going to teach it to go to this location, stay. We always forget about stay, meaning the duration time. And then if it does stay, what are the consequences? And if it doesn't stay, what are the consequences, right? So this is what stationing it is. And we build duration to teach the bird patience, right? Stay here for a second. Stay here for 2 seconds. And I will scratch your head or we'll give you a treat. But there's always 2 sides of the consequence, right? And that's why I have it in this picture is if you stay, even for that 1 millisecond, I will give you a head scratch. I will give you millet. I'll give you safflower seed. I will give you all the attention in the world. I will tell you that you're the most cuddly, welly, wuffly bird I've ever seen in my life for 2 minutes. But if it doesn't, right, say it gets on there and you go to say, oh, it's about good, and it wanders off. It goes, oh, too bad. Well, you start over, but you don't give anything, you just reset. So that's why I want people to think about it. So here's, again, what I just spoke, I have written down, and pick a location, right? So this is my buddy Took. He loves hanging out on the top of his cage, the door cage. So that's the location I picked because I know he's good at it, right? There's places your bird just likes to hang out, and that's where, if I know that, I can get him to station and stay there for short durations. And I'm just talking short durations, right? I need enough time so when we start doing recall, I can set up, but I need him ready. I need to be ready. And so again, you pick the location. Every bird's different. You pick your location. And as long as they stay there, now you may have to lure different subject, but for right now, they stay for a second. And if you have to do this, 1,000, good, then, or nice job, or you can use a clicker, you can use a target if you needed to, good, praise, consequence, he stays. And then each time you do the training, just add a second or a microsecond. And that's why I have down at the bottom, if you do this, be a 2-minute trainer, right? just do this when you have a second or so. This is the training itself should only last about 30 seconds, maybe a minute. And you do the 2 minutes. See, and as you're doing this, you'll see the bird will go to that location and wait. And that's all you need. I just need you to wait there for a second so I can reset. All right. So that's stationing, right, in its simplest forms. Now, again, if you have a bird who doesn't come out of the cage, you can pick a perch and have the bird just go to this perch. And if you have to, like I said, we could discuss luring, meaning, okay, I have to hold the food to that location, the bird comes over to it, I can cue it to go there. And as I do this, after a while, I can get rid of the lure. We always get rid of the lure and just cue it and the bird goes there. The same thing is if, say, Took, who you see sitting on the cage door, if he decides to go to the top of the cage, I can, I could say station, or I usually say go to the door cage. And if he doesn't come down, I would grab some food and lure him a couple of times down and then have him stay there. And then I get rid of the food because I want the word. I want him to follow the word. We can start with the lure, which means just helping him come down, and then we can get rid of it. All right, that's the first skill. And we can always come back to this one if people have questions. The next one is what everybody is recall. How do I get my bird to come, right? And again, if you notice, it's the same starting off as we did with stationing, and I always put these out here because I want to make sure the bird is ready to train and is safe. Now with recall, I'm going to say an 85%. I'm not going to say it's 100%. Usually people who are trying to learn recall, it's because their birds are outside the cage and they need them to go someplace. Can you do recall inside a cage? Like with some budgies? Yeah, you can have them go from one location to another within the cage. Right? And I'm going to remind you folks again, when you're doing this training, make sure you're in a good mood. You're ready to train. You're excited. You're like, I'm ready to do this. You're like, woohoo! Right? So recall is what I call location to location. Right? I have a location I'm starting to. How far is it to the next location? Right? So that's LTL location. And the distance between these two locations is going to depend on your bird and how you start. Okay? So you can pick the top of the cage door as the location where we were stationing, right? How far, right? And we're going to start really small for this, all right? And where is the bird going? To your hand, to a top of another cage door, on a perch stand? Where is the bird going to end? You need two locations. So I'll give you a little, we'll move on. Right? So this is what I mean for the example. This is where we start for recall. Right? I'm starting on the top of my cage and I'm going to the hand. Now, if some of you can't have your bird go to the hand, then to a perch. If you can't do it to a perch, to a tree stand. Right? That's what I'm talking about. And we're going to make it as easy as possible. Right? You start, because I've stationed the bird to one place. Right? In this one, it was in the top of the cage. Just that's where we ended up moving. He does like the top of his cage door, and ended up, just because of the stuff we were doing, it got moved to the top of the cage. I'm positioning myself as easy as possible, and I will get this video going. Right? He's on top of the cage. I'm going to present my hand, and he goes, right? And you'd say, well, isn't that kind of a step up? Well, he hopped over, right? He didn't step up. I put a little space, and I'll show you again real quick for everybody, right? If you look, it's only a few inches, right? And boom, that's where I start, right? He gets on there, he gets good, right? And consequences. Now, you will find out through some of these videos. Took's consequence for doing something is me doing bad dancing. So I did not show this through all the videos because I think you guys would laugh too hard and wouldn't follow. But his big thing is me doing some bad dancing. You will get to see that. If your bird likes scratches and you get it to the hand, then give scratches and go boom, boom, boom and give it to him, right? But you have to start at the very closest part, and then we will increment to the next, all right? And again, I'm going to do this again, all right, top of the hand, but now I'm making it a little further, right? And he's got to think about it. And that's why I took this video, because I wanted to show you him saying, I'm not sure I want to do this. And then I do the bad dancing, and then I ask, and he goes, right? And I'll play it again, just so you know that, again, there are consequences of it. I ask him if he wants to come up. I'm using a hand signal, and if you look, it's a hand, so it looks like a little football stand. That's what I move to, is to this. And then I had to do some dancing, right? Again, bad dancing. And that was his consequence. I only do this training, like I said, here and there throughout I probably did it a couple of times throughout the day, and I probably took some days off. Again, and you're going to keep moving forward. Folks who have non-flighted training, right? Macaws, big birds, we're going to get into that, right? Sometimes it is just a step, or it's a little step, or we can just get them if you have to get them to walk, that's fine, right? It's just moving from one location to another. But requesting them, we're just asking, hey, can you do this? I don't push. They don't want to go. They don't want to go. But again, you'll start doing this, and sometimes, I got my video on. I don't know if you can hear it. And I'm asking, right? All I'm doing is asking, and you can see the look of him going, I don't think so, right? And I'm trying everything to convince him to go, and he's like, no. And in those situations, you say, okay, and you just come back. Don't get frustrated. I even did bad dancing. Look at this. I'm doing some seriously bad dancing, and he's more interested in the bad dancing than doing the step up. So why I'm showing this video is to say, sometimes things go wrong. Sometimes things happen, and it doesn't happen, and you have to go back. I will not keep boring you with my really bad dancing. Whoops. If, as I was saying, back to location to location, if you say, well, I can't go to the hand, right? My bird doesn't go to hands. You go perch to perch. This is a client who gave permission for this video. And she's been working with this bird to just move it. And she had the perches too far. So we moved the perches as close as possible to get the bird to make the jump. And she was so shocked because she couldn't believe that the bird would do it. And so that's why I said, when we start recall training, we've got to start at the smallest increment that the bird feels comfortable doing, right? And moving it from one location to the next. But I want to show this one again because she looks so surprised, doesn't she? She wasn't expecting that the bird was going to do it because we made it so easy, and that's what we're trying to do. Move to the next one. Sometimes, and I figured you guys would like this little video, I'm doing recall training, and sometimes the bird shows up where you don't expect it. This is a dove I did a recall training with, and you can see where the millet is because I was working with it and ended up sitting on my shoulder and wandering over. It did come over. It just didn't come where I wanted it to, but you go with what the bird wants to do. When you're first starting recall, sometimes we expect too much from our birds, and it's, we're like, oh, it's going to look like this. Sometimes we don't know what it's going to look like until you start training, and then you can adjust. So, and probably a lot of you have done this and said, oh yeah, my bird, I do that, the bird comes to me. I do it, just like you said, Joe, boom, bird comes to me. So I'm going to add a little complex to this when you're doing recall, because coming to you is great when you're doing a straight line. That's why I don't call recalls, because coming to a straight line, I can see you, you can see me. We've done this 100 times, right? We've got to add a little more experience level for the bird. Once you get to the point where the bird comes to you at a certain thing, now we've got to add a little criteria to it. And this is where it's going to help you down the road, right? I don't know if you can see where I'm going with this. I have put I'm in a room, you can probably guess. I have a walk-up attic. It's safe. Don't worry, it's safe. And I'm having him come down, bad dancing again. So he's up at some place. I have him up on a perch, and I'm having him come down. Now think about it. That's a weird angle. That's not straight at me. That's a weird angle. And he was very good at that. And he can again bad dancing. So why I do this experiment, this training is if any of you have had a bird who went up on the top of your curtains, right, and you're trying to get him down, right? If you haven't practiced doing it at some level, right, of this recall training, come to me, doing this over and over again. He's going to sit up on those top of those curtains, and you're going to sit there and try to figure out how to get him down, or he's up in a space, So that's why doing it in different angles makes it different. All right. This one again is this one's a little different. Having a different person call your bird, and this is a pigeon. Yes, we did recall training. Who liked the owner was a woman. This is their significant other, and trying to get this pigeon to recall. And he uses the arm and stuff to do that. And we had to practice that. So having the bird go to a different person in your household. And again, think about it. In case you're not home and someone's home and this bird goes into something, it should be good to have it practice going to other people. All right. And I am sorry for this video, but it's just, again, trying to show different angles. Now the bird's on the top of the cage, but I'm not straight on. I'm in a different angle. And this is my bad dancing, so all of you get to see how bad my bad dancing is. I do not go out. This is right. But I'm going to pause this for a second. All right. I don't know if anybody has ever done this, but this is what I mean by different angles. My back is turned. I'm having a bird fly, back. So this is what I'm talking about with these different angles in different locations and different people, right? Because I'm changing up the flight pattern for this bird. And then the one where I turned around, you can see where my hand signal came in handy, right? Because he cannot see my face. He cannot see these things. So that's why, let's see, I could play it one more time. This is one, I'm over at an angle. That's one on my bad dancing. I'm really sorry. It's what he likes. I'm sorry, folks. Okay. But I wanted to show you that's what I'm talking about with the angles and getting the bird to recall.
Sheila, I'm just going to interrupt 1 second.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware that we don't hear the sound on the videos. I don't know if that was intentional or not.
That is intentional. I had to shut them off because I had a lot of background noise on the video, so I shut the sound off.
Okay, no problem.
Right, and there's just for everybody to know, I really don't say much to my birds. It's all hand signals. I don't say too much to them. There isn't a lot of talking between me and my birds, meaning when I'm training. Afterwards, which I cut, is me kissing them and telling them they're the great bird on planet, and I'm, dancing. But it's a good question, and thank you. There's one that will have sound, so bear with me. All right. I don't want that one. And again, this one does have sound, and I don't know if people can hear it. So Amy, it's faint, okay, folks, it's faint. But in this one, it is a straight on video. But there is someone behind the door. There's a door here. There's somebody behind it, and they're dropping a pot. And this is if you're anybody's going to do any recall training, and they say, my bird comes to me every time, I ask you to do this, try this, right? And I don't know if you can hear it. Right? I don't know, Amy, if you were able to hear that one or not.
No.
Okay. The sound is on, and I can hear it in my.
The reason because I've been to a lot of Zooms where that happened, and when you share screen, there's a little box you have to check called share sound, so that any embedded videos will people can hear the sound too. Let's see, where is it? Interactions.
That's what I was looking for, because it's really.
I know that's it's an issue a lot of times. I don't see. Oh, I think that's your PowerPoint menu. I think it was actually on the share screen menu.
Oh, up here. Okay. Let's see.
Yeah. If not, I wouldn't worry about it since you said most of your videos don't have sound anyhow.
They don't, but that one does. That one I wanted people to hear, but I
think if you I know from when I was having to do a lot of
here we go. Try
yeah,
that.
Yeah, maybe you got it. Never mind.
Let me see if this works. Tell me again. Thank you, folks. Come on. Nice job. Nope. Huh?
Yes, it worked. It worked.
Okay. All right. And I can play it again, folks, if you really want to hear me say nice job again. But that's what there was, like I said, somebody dropping a pot back there when he came across. There's a rug, so it didn't make as much noise. But the reason I bring this, if I can get rid of that annotation there, hang on, give me my screen back. Sorry, let me back screen. There we go. I was trying to close this off. Oops, sorry. So now you get all the sound. Hang on. Come on. The only reason I showed this one, I won't play it again just to drive you guys, not to drive you guys crazy, is if you are teaching recall and you're getting this bird coming to you, I always take 95%, right? Nothing's ever perfect, but 95% of the time. That's when I'd say to somebody, okay, have somebody behind them, behind the scene, the bird can't see them, and make a distraction. Because there's a reason for this, why you want that bird to still come to you, even if there's a distraction. And I'm telling you, it's going to save you a lot if you practice that. All right. So now I'm going to kind of go back over a few things we went over, and you'll get to hear some sounds now. But again, this is intro, right, to recall. And I know some people say, well, the bird doesn't really move that way, or it doesn't do this. If you have to, just practice the simple step of I'm shutting the volume off because it's not important, of just having the bird come to you, right? If you have to, start at the very basic. Can you get the bird to just come over to you? And you can do it by target training if you need to. If you need to use food to lure for a little while, just so the bird starts to come to you, right? And then you can start to work at, now can I move it off the cage to another location, right? And tiny steps, right? Like I was showing back before. If, again, you can't have the bird step up with you, can I roll up, a perch tree near it and just have it move to that perch tree and then slowly move it apart? If, in this instance, this bird is not very big on hands, right? It is not a hands. So I had to find, when I was working with this bird, I was helping a client with this, the bird likes to come out, it's just not a hands bird, so we had to find some other alternatives. So we just found an object that it liked to go to, right? That's what we did. We just recalled it to an object. You don't need to hear me in the background of this one either, right? And see how it was just a tiny step, all right? He's on there, he's fine. Let me just play it again. But see how small the step is to the recall? Tiny step. This bird became one of my great recall birds, because you'll see it in another video in a minute. Right? Because this is what I was talking about in step 3, right? Okay, now I've had the bird. This is what we've been talking about all day, for a little long that I've gone, coming to me, right? The key of recall is going back, right? How do I need the bird to go back, right, to another location. Because there may be a situation where you need the bird to not come to me, or wherever it lands, I need it to go back to the original place we stationed. Because it can happen, right? The bird flies to one place. I don't want it to come to me, or I need it to go back to its location. So same bird, and I'm placing it in a spot, because this bird and I have been working on recall for a while. and I'm asking it to go back to its cage, right? And and there it goes. Because we have been practicing this, and I cue it. You couldn't see, because I had to hold the camera. You couldn't see me cueing the bird to go back to that cage. Again, it's a client's bird. Does excellent recall now. For those of you who like doing target training and recall, I think you'll get this back to our pigeon, super pigeon as I call it. There's a target at the bottom, and this is practicing recall. So this is where I was going back to saying the bird doesn't always have to fly. If you can use a target to do recall to a location and then have it come back. So it doesn't have to, everybody's like, oh, you've been showing flight. Doesn't always have to, right? It can be walking and it can be coming back. So it went down to a location and then it came back. This is now recall, because now you've got it going down to some location and it's going back to another location. And the last one, I was doing this at another location. Some people might be able to guess this, where recall just back to your cage. Yeah, I know, not a lot of parrot. I have doves and other things because I work with a lot of them. And so recalled right back into the location, into the cage. All right, so that's, again, these are all just intro steps, and we can talk about them. Like I said, I had a lot of videos in here, and I cut them down because I wanted to be able to have some discussions around them. But in summary, why I think intro to recall and where I was going with a lot of this is, one, it's retrieving, right? Having the bird fly to a location, where you can't reach, you recall it to retrieve the bird back to you. Redirecting it, right? If it's going to a location that's unsafe, how do I get it to go to a safe place? Recalling it back. And rescuing. I'm hoping, again, I really hope if the bird gets outside, if you've been working on this and the bird's in a vicinity, right? You wait for the bird to calm down and everything, and you've been practicing this and you got it, there's a good chance, right? If everybody's calm and patient and you do it, the bird will come down to you, or at least it'll lower itself and you guys can meet in the middle. So that's what all of this is about, is trying to find a way of matching that middle and being able to rescue it. All right. Like I said, I did cut this down, but I really just wanted to show you, you got to start in the very tiny, tiny steps areas. All right. I'm going to take it off sharing, and Amy, we need to go back to the videos we can.
Okay. Well, excellent. So I have to ask you, now, do you use different words like come or go, or like you want the bird to come to you, but you want it to go back to the cage? Do you just say a cage?
No, I had hand signals, but I also would do the same thing, right? This would be come, this would be go, but go had a location, right? Go had a location. And like for all of you, I also had to the cage, just go to the cage, and it would apply. And the reason I did a lot, when I do some of the stuff I work with, I do a lot of hand signals, is my theory, and that's why I was testing a lot of this too, because my testing bird was some locations, right? You visually, right? You could probably verbally talk, but there's a situation, and that's what I was thinking, is if I'm outside and the bird's up high, it may or may not hear me, right? But if I keep doing the same visual to it, and the bird can finally see me, it might, if it can't hear me, right? And think about it, if it's outside, I can't say go to the cage, right? I don't have that, but I always have the same visual thing. So that's what I was working on, was these different things. But again, all of our birds are individuals, and how they learn and how you signal to them is up to you. What cue you use is up to you. Just be consistent, right? If it's come, right? Meaning to me, if you want the bird just to learn, to go to the cage, then it's to the cage. But if you have different perches, like when we were doing perch to perch, right? I had these perch to perch. There was with that woman, we just had perch names for it. Sadly, we had left and right perch, which doesn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people. But where we were standing, it was left to right. But now people go, well, wait a minute. We had LNR on the thing, so we knew. Does the bird know left or right? No, it doesn't care. It just knew that perch was right and that perch was left. It didn't matter where we put it. It just happened. That's how we started, and we just stuck with it. And
or maybe you could just point at each perch.
Yeah, right. And you could target train, right? Or you could give it better names than we did. It was just at the time when we were doing it. We probably could have come up with better names for them. But we were just as would.
Yeah. If the bird gets outside, I would think it would be useful to probably use both voice and.
Yeah, it would. Yeah.
Now,
I also go ahead.
So what happens if? So let's say you teach the bird come to you, and you do whatever your hand signal is, and the bird gets outside, or even in the house. Once they learn those cues, will they do them for anybody who uses those cues, or just for you?
Just for me. And that's why I was saying in one of the videos, get other people to do it too. Come have other people train with you that you trust. It's going to start over though. So if you have a new person that you would like your bird to do recall, like the video of the pigeon was very attached to the woman, not the significant other. And we needed the bird to go to the significant other, because really we were teaching this because at the time the pigeon was beating up the significant other. Okay. And so, and I mean, literally he'd come over and peck on his feet and stuff. So that wasn't good. We didn't want the bird on the floor. We needed the bird up. And so this is where this recall came into play. And she had to leave, and we had him do the training. And it took a while, but we were able to do it. Like with the bird I was working where I was up. So those people who have birds that get caught up on the curtains, right? Let's use the curtains because that's what happens. And most of us are with the perch and are like, come here. And the bird's up and the bird's going, no, I'm quite content here. Thank you very much. I would like to stay here. That's why I like if you can find a perch that moves up, right? Like, so it goes up, because you want this angle of high to low. You want it high. If you have some other, or ladders or something you can do to start to build this angle of up to down to you, and you practice it and the bird comes and stuff. When the bird does go up to that curtain or to a spot, you should be able to say, now again, as long as you're practicing it and you're doing it. Now, I always tell people, sometimes what happens is you're practicing it, the bird goes up there, and you're like, oh, I've been practicing, and the bird goes, yeah, great. I'm happy to, then, you go get the big bowl of the entire food bucket that this bird loves, and you hold it and see if the bird will come down for that, because you haven't got it yet, right?
Yeah, I was just curious though, if there are some birds, I understand maybe not all birds, but that would, once they learn a certain phrase or signal, would respond to multiple people. Because wouldn't that be great if your bird got outside and all your friends knew, if they do this, it means come, and if they say come, and then you could have your friends scattered all over the place,
right?
All using the same signals. Well, right. That might confuse the bird, but the bird might come to one of the
right.
people who does
one
that.
of the people, right? And I was just watching. It was Barbara Heidenreich and Robin, I think it's Sullivan now. I don't right. Has a video called "Oh, You Lost Your Bird," blah blah blah. And one of the things in the video, which was really interesting, they were noting was sometimes the bird will go up in the tree, and if a flock of people go, "Oh my God, there's the bird!" Right? The bird freaks out, and they're like, "Back everybody off." Right, and only have one individual at a time
Right.
go, and everybody else back off because the bird might get overwhelmed by, this stack of people coming at them. Um, I just, to all, I think it's a good place to start, right? Is just practicing this, even if it's just from one cage to another, right? You can give your cages names, right? And if for those who birds are inside the cage that maybe they don't come out, you practice going from one perch to another perch, And again, can I use target training? Yes. I just happened that bird liked hand signals, so I just did hand signals. I was doing this. You can, whatever you're comfortable with is your thing. Those with bigger birds, who are like, well, I'm not sure I want him to land on me, right? Because it might push down. I might then perch to perch, right? Then you get a perch stand, and you sometimes, I know I don't know, this is not true for all birds. I'm going to say the birds that I worked with clients, how's that? I'm going to narrow it down so it's not true across the board. Macaws are not always the ones who can fly don't always choose to fly unless they're scared out of their wits. Most of them were like, I'll get there, hang on, and they walk over. That's fine, right? Just if you have two cages or you have a tree stand that they can find, and then start moving the tree stand a little so that maybe just watch their tail. We had to watch their tail. If they hop from one to the other, wow, that's a little, well, they got their legs exercised. And as long as the tail doesn't get bumped, it becomes kind of fun for them. They're like, oh, because if they do it enough times, they kind of go, I can do this. I can jump 3 inches. Hang on. And they pop over. But then they learn that word, right? Even if it's a little, and then you have them turn or spin and come back, right? And think about it. They get that. So if something goes wrong, if they get scared and, oh my God, they use their wings and they go someplace, as long as they've heard that word before, like, okay, I know this means to move from one, you've got a shot. I'm pretending they don't get outside, but they get into something. They fly up into something they didn't expect, or they landed on a place you went, ooh, I haven't taught them how to get down from there, or they're on the ceiling fan, or they're hanging on by something, and they're nervous, and you want to say to them, remember, we practiced this. Here's the perch, jump. You've got this thing where they go, oh yeah, I remember this. I can do it, because you've built this confidence, this empowerment to them to do it.
Sounds like we should also practice what you're saying about having them come down, because that's something we always hear about. If a bird gets outside, they may see you and they may want to come to you, but they just don't know how to fly down.
They don't know how to fly down, yeah. And
that'll be a real useful skill to practice.
Right. So that's why I say, right, and that's so what you saw with the little conure that I had. He's a cool little conure. He's a cool little conure, but he gets into trouble, right? He gets into trouble. He's not a very, he will go to your arm and stuff, but you end up going back with a few hickeys, right? He likes to pinch your skin or pull. He likes pulling hairs out and stuff. He doesn't want the hand, right? He'll take down, but he'll. So that's why we were trying to find an alternative so that he focused on what we were doing. Because once he's on you, he's like, oh, look, little fuzzies. I want to take those off. He never bit, but you just got a few hickeys from him on that. So we used a pillow and just put a little top on it, and he would fly to that. And then we were trying to, so what, luckily, just where I'm going with this is they told me was he got up onto something, and they said as soon as the pillow showed up, boom, he came right down to the pillow. Like they need, because the pillow ended up becoming a cue, right? They didn't even have to say anything because we'd worked so hard on it. Before they even said come, the bird already knew the behavior of, oh, if I fly to this, I know what I already am empowered to. Now from there, I can go to my cage. So
that bird gets out and you walk outside with the pillow, he might just come to it.
Right. And they're very cautious, and they're He is flighted, and they have all kinds of secure things. But you're right, and that's what, he didn't get outside, but he got out of the area that they normally have very secure, and they got a little panicky, grabbed, and then he got up high onto something. He was still in the house. He just wasn't in an area they normally bring him into. And instead of chasing him and panic, the client remembered, oh, the pillow, and brought the pillow, and the bird just flew right down.
That's great.
But
Something
we had,
that's all to
yeah,
us too.
yeah, right. And that's why I think sometimes, in some instances, those birds where I joke that they don't like hands, we can offer other things, and sometimes it's funny how that thing, whatever we offer, ends up becoming a cue, meaning it triggers the behavior we didn't expect, because we're so used to words, we're so used to words or hands. And so I always think it's interesting of how quickly birds learn something when it's reinforced, and we give them the praise and we give them what they need. This bird loved attention. This bird was like, you tell me I'm the goddess of birds and I love you. It really didn't want food or anything. It just wanted you to just tell this bird that it was the best bird on the planet. I bet you we all have one of those.
Yeah, that's especially a cockatoo thing. They don't care about treats or anything else. Just give them a head rub and tell them how much you love them, and they'll do anything for you.
Right. And that's again and I think these are this, like I said, for cockatoos, that's another good one, right? Bigger birds, right? Like some of the little birds, conures and stuff. They always are zooming, or those who allow them out of the cage, right? They're zooming around. They're getting flights or whatever. The bigger ones sort of walk, right? I mean, sometimes they fly, but I always feel like they're like, or they use us, the human cab, and say, I want to go over there, right? And they yell at us, and the human cab comes over. We don't even pay anything. They get on, and we move them over there. Versus we should be teaching them how to get there, right? By cues and commands. And if that means we've got to bring that thing that they want closer so we can practice it, and then move it, and then they can learn on command, on request, on a nice ask, to say, you could do that yourself,
If anybody wants to ask questions, just jump on in. You can
jump in.
I don't want to monopolize this, so.
Yeah. And like I said, I shortened up. I had a whole bunch of it. So the same bird you saw too, I must have taken the video out, talking about angles. I would put him in my bathroom, and I would go down the hallway and be around another room, and I'd call him, right? And the first, I must have taken it out because I was trying to be short. I didn't want to go on forever, folks, but you could see him first come out of the bathroom and just look out, like, where are you? And then we would do it again, and the next time he had to make the angle out of the bath. He flew out of the angle and then down the hallway. And I think angles are important because, again, this is about rescuing events from wherever the bird may be. And sometimes they're in the house, right? I don't think any of you have ever had this, but I'm just saying the bird is out, you've got busy, and then you've lost track of it and you have no idea where the bird is, right? You know he's around the house somewhere. Right, but you don't know where.
I have that happen when there's a hawk outside, my birds get very frightened and they'll scatter. And the cockatiel, I can always find Rosie, but the cockatiels, I either have one that's screaming their head off, and then I just have to try to orally locate them, or I have ones that normally would come with no problem, but they've now fallen somewhere behind. They're somewhere behind a piece of furniture, and then they go silent. It's total silent running. And so I was walking around for an hour. I could not find him. I was starting to panic because I thought maybe he's dead or he's fallen behind the furniture and he can't speak. And then I had to bring the one that was screaming around because he was screaming for the other one. But the problem is he was screaming so much that I couldn't even hear the other one, even if he was making sound. So I'm trying to tell this one to shut up so I can listen to the other one. But I'm also carrying them around like a Geiger counter, beep, 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 hoping they sing louder so I'm getting closer to the other one. But sometimes you just, even though they normally come to me, the brains just go into panic mode, and they
Right.
go silent because, oh my God, there could be a predator. And the reason they flew in the first place was because there was a predator outside. So sometimes it's a question of I can't even locate them.
Right. And that's what I talk about with distractions and stuff, right? Because we can't be a predator. I get that, right? I can't, we could do a sound on the thing, but, in your example, he disappears, which happens, right? They go, they hide, right? They're like, oh, I'm not getting eaten by that blue jay or whatever it may be that flew by, right? But if we don't have some kind of way to say, come back, right? Or come, or go to your cage, or some, that's what I was talking about, like recall to me, come, or go to your cage or something. So once the birdie frightness has wore out a little bit, you can get them to go back.
I have a problem in my house at Christmas. It goes in a circle, so the birds are used to flying around in the circle before going back into the side room. I put up 5 Christmas trees.
Wow.
It's no fun standing in front of 5 trees and begging that bird to show himself.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And so, and again, even for those who have the birds that go up high, right? I mean, it's a great place to hang out, right? Hey, look, I'm in where I'm supposed to be, right? Well, I don't know if I'm having a little fun here. I don't know if cockatiels know what pine trees are, right? But I'm in here and look at all this cool stuff and it's shiny and woohoo.
And look at these fake birds that are adorned on the tree.
Right. I mean, I can see we're distracting, and that's why when you're doing, even when you're starting, even if you're in the cage, the birds are in the cage or wherever, you need these little distractions, right? So the bird still continues to do the training it knows. There's always going to be moments you're not going to, start fireworks, right? Predators that call. We can't predict those, right? But if we have a little practice with it, it's not going to be great, but at least once things calm down and you call, right, they start to go, oh, I remember this. Okay, all right, I remember this. Now again, Amy, I would expect, like, especially, I'm going to pick it, when I'm picking on the blue jay, but when the hawk flies by the window and your cockatiels go, no, I'm not hanging out here, bye, right, and take off, right, I expect them to hide, right, and the hard part is, you're right, you got one who's great, he's mouthy, I hate this, I hate this, I hate, great, the other ones are like, nope, you're not eating me, and gone under. So, those are expected behaviors. It's just to get them past, once, and think about it, Amy, you got I'm sorry, it's not a great situation, but bear with it. If this was outside, the same problem would happen, right? So to all of you, if accidentally they went out, right? Luckily, the one who's really noisy, you go up on them. Right? The other one would be in the tree going, I'm not saying a word because that hawk's going to eat me. Not happening. My little crown is down and I'm going to, right? So you've got a great setup, not predictable, but, to be able to train in the house for these things.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm trying.
Yeah.
No, I'm done.
What kind of bird is Took? What kind of parrot?
Oh, he was a yellow streak lorikeet.
Yellow streak lorikeet. Okay. Very pretty.
He was an orange mutation, but he was sadly to all of you, my flock thinned out last year, they aged out, and so but they were great trainers for me, and they taught me a lot of stuff, and that's why even with intro recall, and I was kind of joking about some stuff, I always ask them, right? I put a cue together, I put the plan in my head, what I'm going to do, and I try it. They tell me, well, you got to come closer. Nope, the reinforcer's not strong enough. And sometimes they get frustrated. And that's what I was saying. When I was teaching something, you could see Took was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but scratch my head, right? I don't know what you're asking me. Because sometimes you'll ask something, you're going to teach something, and your birds won't do what you expect because they're frustrated. They're like, I don't know what you're asking me because it's new, right? And so you have to start at the tiniest step. And that's where when you saw me and he was on the cage door and I was just saying, just come on over, right? Like that's where I started. I made complexity by trying to turn my body around and having him come, right? So there was no facial, he had no information facially. He only had the hand signal. He liked when we did that, you know. And again, sorry that you get to see my bad dancing, but that was his thing. He liked it.
Clearly,
he just I am so you don't realize I had to clip a lot of videos because all at the end of them were me doing really I don't know how to dance. And the worse I was, the happier he was. You know, he just thought that was great. So in the science thing, as Amy would say, a lot of this is shaping, small incremental steps towards it. There might be a little counter conditioning because if your bird's scared of something, you might be doing a little bit. So it all has all the little science, but I just tried to put it in small steps for you in this. So if all you do from you leave from this, besides listening to me babble, is just try to practice getting your bird to move from one L to L, one location to another location, and then try to have them go back to that location, right? And if you have to use target training, clickers, kisses, hugs, scratches, telling them they're the best birds in the world and there are no other birds like them out there, they are the perfect bird in the world. Whatever you need to do, millet, safflower seeds, I don't want to say this. What are you going to stop? I was going to say some other foods, but she's got me recorded, so I won't say those words. You know, whatever you have to use to move, start to just, even if you have to start with luring. And luring just means you're holding the food on one side and teaching, and the bird just comes over as you're holding it. Just make sure you give them the food when they come over. Don't hold it, have them come over and take it away. Leave it there and let them come to it, have it. Because at some point you will take the food away because you're going to add the word, right? So if you say come, keep the food there, they come over, they get the food. Fine, later on, you'll just say come, then they get the food. It's just, luring is just helping them understand. That's why we use, I like food. I don't know if, I don't have a bladder. I don't know if any of you, here, last thing I promise, where's few of you who know me, this is Perfect Bird. This is who I use in a lot of my I should unscreen it, but this is Perfect Bird, who when I'm working with my clients, this is who does all my help. And so that's what I'm joking. Let's see if I can my video. You can see, I can unblur my screen. There we go. And so what I mean by luring, last thing, is, so whatever the tidbit food is, and you're saying, come, hold it where you need them to come. Now, if the bird starts going, oh, I can't reach it, oh, it's so far away, oh, you're killing me. Fine, move it a little closer, just as long as you see one little foot stretch, take it. And then until you can get the bird to start to move. And then when you see the bird moving, then you can put a word on it, keep luring until you could say the word, like the bird just starts to move, and then the food goes away, and then you ask, and then the food shows up. So that's what luring.
You never know how long a bird's neck is till you try to do that, and suddenly this neck, this big, becomes like this big. So the body stays in one place, but the neck goes as far out as you can imagine.
Right. And I tell people, if that's how you have to start, right, that the bird has to go, sorry, come here, Perfect Bird. Oh, yeah, I will get it. Then that's where you start, right? Because after a while, they're not going to like doing that, right? Their feet are holding on to something. They're stretching as far as they can. And at some point, a foot will move. It'll move because at some point, it's just not comfortable. I don't know if any of you have ever sat on a rolling chair like the one I'm on, and there's something over there you have to get, and you go to stretch, and the chair starts to tilt. You might do it once to get it. The second time, you'll move your body to it. There's just this thing where you go, I don't think I want to do that again.
Right. All right. Do we have any other questions? Behavior questions people want to ask? And remember, Sheila is available both in person and online for behavior consultations.
Yeah.
She does a great job with behavior.
I tried. And there's, I try my best. And I want everybody to have fun. So I'm really, there are wonderful other trainers out there. Please, I love them all that are out there, and they're all fantastic. And I always tell people, if you don't want my sense of humor, I can always recommend other trainers because I like to be silly during sessions. I try to give you some of the science because it is important to kind of know where it comes from. But I also am very focused on your individual bird. And so if you do sign up, I ask a lot of questions because I want to know about your individual bird so that when we're working, I'm focused on your bird. It's not a general, I try not to be general. That's why sometimes people will ask me questions and say, oh, what about this? I really need to know your bird because I can give answers, but your bird may not fit in that box, right? As I joke, one cockatiel I'm joking, may look like another cockatiel, but their personalities can be totally different. They can be totally, and I don't know if Amy's ever been through this, but I've had cockatiels who don't like millet. Nope, don't like it. Not eating it. Thanks for playing, but nope. And I don't like safflower sheets. And I don't like this, and I don't like that, and go away.
Well, that's what I love about your approach, Sheila, because I said every person out there is different, but there's some people that are just very dogmatic, and either you do it my way or we're not going to accomplish anything, and you're not a good pet companion because you're not following my rigid approach. But Sheila's probably the most laid back trainer that I know, and I think your sense of humor is great, and you just have a very friendly approach to things, as a non-judgmental approach, which there are a lot of people out there who are very judgmental about these things and think there's just basically one way to do things and that's it. So
I'm going to say this just to all of you. I was waiting for Amy to comment one of the videos, right? And so I'm going to say this. I will say it, just being in. So yes, my lorikeet had a tent. Yes, it did. And I know there's a whole big thing about tents, all right? And I agree with it 100%. Mine just grew up with one. Didn't eat it. Didn't do anything to it. Birds do not, I've read enough research. I'm now at the point they don't need him. I didn't know it at the time that I got into training. So some of the videos are older and I have tens. I would have probably got rid of them. But so I was waiting for Amy going, is that a tent? Why do you have a tent in the cage? But in case any of you saw that.
You have to know your bird. There's some birds that are perfectly fine with them. There was a cockatoo online that I followed till he died this past year at 32. And he had a tent his whole life and was perfectly fine with it. But that's, it's like with everything else. You have to know your bird. I had a bird that would try to eat anything, so I had to be super careful. Is it a piece of aluminum foil? He'd try to bite it and swallow and everything. But I have other birds that I know aren't going to just swallow random objects. So like everything else, you have to know your bird. And if your bird seems safe with a tent, just keep an eye on it and make sure that there's no openings or anything in it. And then other birds you wouldn't be able to use a hut for.
No. Right. And that's but why I kind of bring it up is I'm very flexible with everybody and their environment. I try to be open to the scenarios and I try my best, and I want people to feel free to reach out. Now, again, I may not have, sometimes situations happen. We know with vocalization, I'm going to go down that road real quick and then I'll end it. Birds vocalize, right? And sometimes it can be for a reason we have no idea on this planet. The bird knows. The bird has a reason why it's vocalizing, just not telling us. And it's tough because, again, I've worked with a lot of clients with vocalization, and we probably go down 20 routes of trying to figure out why the bird is vocalizing or what's causing it or how do we do this. And it could take a long time, right? Because I don't know if it's a learned behavior. I don't know if there's something in the environment, especially online. I'm going to tell you what, I love doing it online, but I can't see everything, right? Or I don't know if something happened, right? Because I've had people say to me, oh, this has been happening for a long time, but a long time for them was a week, right? A long time to me is a year. So, back to like when I was saying to you, oh, practice being a trainer for this, recall. I don't know how long it's going to take your bird to get there. Right? And that's why I always joke. This was from Dr. Pat Anderson. She used to say, be a 5-minute. I've shortened it down to be a 2-minute trainer. She was always like, be like a 5-minute trainer. As I always joke, if you could be, it usually takes you about 5 minutes to set up, and you train for probably about 30 seconds, and then you end it, and then you go off, do your thing, come back again, and do it again. Don't kill yourself, and have fun, right? I'm going to end this, right, is whatever training you teach your bird, whatever it is, have fun. Be silly, be goofy. That's why I have the bad dancing. Be silly. Because if you're having fun, your birds will have fun, right? If you're being goofy and silly and just being, I don't know, kid, right? Your birds sort of go, hey, she's kind of cool. She's weird. I want to hang out with her. She's weird. Because I've just found if you're like, I'm going to train and, this is how, you're very stiff. Your bird, you'll get it done. I just, I don't think you're having fun, right? So I'll leave it at that. It's getting late. I need more.
Well,
What do you think, Perfect Bird?
That sounds like a great ending line. And I just want to thank everybody for coming tonight. If you have any questions, feel free to email either of us. You can get to her website through the information I sent out, or if you contact me, I can give you her information. Again, if you want to see more of Sheila, in a couple of weeks, she'll be doing the program at Rhode Island Parrot, and she'll be doing those periodically. So if you're in the area or you want to see her online, it would be great if people could sign up. And I think that'll be it. I'm going to stop recording, and I want to wish everybody a happy rest of October.